Sodha Nandana Braja Janaranjana Ramanatira Bhanachari Jayam Vishnupa Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashaturashadu Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Rajagranta Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Samveda Bhakti Vrindagi Nitaya Pranandi All glories to the Sim devotees All glories to Shri Shri Gauranga Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Word-to-word meaning. Atmana, self-sufficiently. Eva, certainly. Anusavanam, at every moment. Anjasa, directly. Avyatirekana, without stopping. Bobhuyamana, increasing. Yashersha, unlimitedly. Purusha Artha, the goals of life. Swarupasya, your actual identity. Kintu, but. Natha, O Lord. Ashisha, benedictions for material enjoyment. Ashasananam, of us who are always desiring. Etat, this. Abhisamradhana, forgetting your mercy. Matram, only. Bhavitum arhati, can be. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All of life's goals and opulences are directly, self-sufficiently, and unlimitedly increasing in you at every moment. Indeed, you are unlimited enjoyment and blissful existence itself. As far as we are concerned, O Lord, we are always after material enjoyment. We do not need all these sacrificial arrangements, but they are meant for us so that we may be benedicted by your Lordship. All these sacrifices are performed for our fruitive results, and they are not actually needed by you. Purport: being self-sufficient, the Supreme Lord does not need huge sacrifices. Fruitive activity for a more opulent life is for those who desire such material opulence for their interests. Jagnarta kumanon yatra loko yam kamabandhanaha. If we do not act to satisfy the Supreme Lord, we engage in Maya's activities. We may construct a gorgeous temple and spend thousands of dollars, but such a temple is not required by the Lord. The Lord has many millions of temples for his residence, and he does not need our attempt. It does not require opulent activity at all. Such engagement is meant for our benefit. If we engage our money in constructing a gorgeous temple, we are free from the reactions of our endeavors. This is for our benefit. In addition, if we attempt to do something nice for the Supreme Lord, he is pleased with us and gives us his benediction. In conclusion, the gorgeous arrangements are not for the Lord's sake, but for our own. If we somehow or other receive blessings and benedictions from the Lord, our consciousness can be purified, and we can become eligible to return home back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadhati Swapatantikam Vanchakalpaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyareva cha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I'm not prepared. I don't really know what to speak exactly. I'm reminded of the verse in Prahlad Maharaj's prayers. I might need a database or phone. Naivatmana prabhurayam nijalabha purno ma nam janara vidusha karuno vrinite yajano bhagavate vidaditamanam tachatmane pratimukashri yata mukashri. Okay, I don't need it. I remembered. I was thinking I wouldn't remember the verse. I haven't. So in this verse it explains Naivatmana prabhurayam nijalabha purno, that the Supreme Lord is called nijalabha purno, which means, like what the Brahmanas are saying here, he's self-sufficient, self-satisfied, therefore he requires nothing from anyone else. This is the position of the Lord. This self-satisfaction can mean that because there's nothing outside of the Supreme Lord, therefore he is self-satisfied. Generally, in the conditioned life, due to identifying with matter, we feel incomplete on account of seeing something outside of ourselves, which we think we require to be complete. And therefore, there's always mental agony, because the mind is always meditating on things outside of itself, thinking that we require those things for becoming more complete. So then the mind is always experiencing agony. And then, to the degree the agony is there in the mind, we pursue those objects which we feel will make us complete. But Krishna is self-satisfied. There's no mental agony in Krishna because everything is already within him. All opulences, all enjoyment. He is unlimited enjoyment and blissful existence itself. That would be nice. That would be a good facility. So this is Krishna's position. It's also said that he is nijalabha purno. He is complete because he's being served by unlimited goddesses of fortune in the spiritual world. So what does he require from us? Right? Chintamani, what is that? Prakara Sama Shukalpar Viksha. The third line. Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasam Brahmasevyamana. Right? That's a nice facility also, right? Thousands of goddesses of fortune serving you. If we can get one goddess of fortune, we feel very ecstatic. But she's chanchala, she's very flickering, so she doesn't stay with us very long. But thousands of goddesses of fortune are serving Krishna's lotus feet. So naturally, he is labhapurno, he feels complete. It's a good facility. So therefore, what does he require from entities of this world? If you have thousands of goddesses of fortune serving you, what do you require from any entity of this world? Right? And that too, they're serving Krishna with paraphernalia composed of spiritual energy. That's also a nice facility. I often mention this thing. We offer Krishna fruits, and many times we have to cut off all the nasty parts, and by the time you finish cutting off all the nasty parts, it's like this much apple left. And we have to offer it to Krishna, and say, please accept my bhakti, even though I don't have that either, but, Guru Parampara is there, and we feel hopeful that we're honoring, prasadam. But the apples in the spiritual world don't have such defects. The apples of the spiritual world are also the same quality of Krishna, Satchidananda. So they're offering Krishna such paraphernalia. That's pretty ecstatic. So what are we offering Krishna? We're offering Krishna something composed of the modes of material nature. And that too, not very nice modes of material nature. And Krishna doesn't accept anything composed of the modes of material nature. And the residents of the spiritual world are offering Krishna a paraphernalia and things that are composed of spiritual energy. So So naturally, Krishna is self-satisfied. He requires nothing from the entities of this world. So that leaves us in a dilemma, because if we don't get an opportunity to serve the Lord, then we cannot benefit ourselves in this world. And if Krishna requires nothing from us, then how do we get opportunity to serve Him? Right? Generally, in our materialistic concept of service, we think that we're providing a need for the other individual. That's like the whole idea of service. They need this, I'm rendering that service because they're in need of it. But Krishna doesn't need anything. Just like, we can bring it down a level, just like a devotee, let's say like the spiritual master, he doesn't actually need anything from the disciple, although we tend to think that he does. He doesn't. So if the spiritual master is like, I don't need anything, suppose you go, can I wash? No, I don't need it, I'll do it. Can I wash your clothes? No, I can do it. If he doesn't give any opportunity, can I at least take your maha? No. If you don't give opportunity, then how we will be benefited? How will we be benefited? Only by rendering service to devotees, Krishna, the devotees of Krishna, we get opportunity for elevation. So they say, I don't need anything from you. I am self-satisfied. Okay, that is very nice, but what about me? That consciousness will come. What is my position? I can only be benefited by rendering service to the Supreme Lord, to the devotees. So if they don't give such opportunity, then we will degrade. Our consciousness will degrade. It would have no means for elevation. So Krishna is very kind to the conditioned soul. Manam janat avidusha karuno vrinite. Avidusha means ignorant jivas. Prabhupada translates it as rascals in the verse. Rascals who have turned away from Krishna, and karuno vrinite. In order to show mercy to such ignorant souls, such as ourselves, the Supreme Lord gives opportunity for rendering service to Him. And that is not meant for the Lord, but rather meant for ourselves. And then the example Prahlad Maharaj gives is pratimukasya yata mukashi. He gives this example that just as when you decorate your body with nice ornaments, then the reflection in the mirror also appears to be decorated. Right? It reflects in the mirror. And then the reflection in the mirror also looks very nice. So the idea is that by rendering service to Krishna, that reflects on us, right? It is not that the person is benefited per se, but the reflection is benefited. The reflection looks nice. That's the idea. The reflection looks nice because the individual's ornamented very nicely. So it reflects into the mirror, and then the reflection also looks nice. Just like sometimes you might be victimized. Suppose you're, minding your own business at a lake or something like that, and then you see the reflection of something very nice, and I explain out the details. The reflection looks very nice, and you get attracted in a particular sort of way because the individual is very nice, right? So the idea is that by serving Krishna, by offering things to Krishna, that reflects upon the jiva, and then he's benefited, he's elevated. So Krishna is very kind that although he's unlimited enjoyment and blissfulness personified, and therefore not requiring anything from us, he, out of mercy for the fallen conditioned souls, he's giving opportunity for rendering service to him. And by such services, we get an opportunity to fulfill our wants. So, and it was being discussed here by Srila Prabhupada, the conditioned soul may have two aspects of wants. One aspect is material wants, and the other aspect is spiritual wants. Generally, the spiritual wants are concealed by the material wants, oftentimes. But sometimes it happens that jivas see the necessity of both, even though they give probably more weight to the material idea. In any case, whether you want to be happy materially or you want to be happy spiritually, you should serve the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada is using this verse from the 3rd chapter of Gita, Yagnarta Karmano Anyatra Loko Yam Karma Bandhanaha. In the material world, we are in want. Ultimately, we're in want of happiness, we're in want of satisfaction. That's what we're looking for. Due to the material concept of life, we think that satisfaction can be had by material sense gratification. And if you want to enjoy material sense gratification, you need material resources. But how you will get those resources? See, the trouble with material sense gratification is that one problem is our senses are limited, so they have limited capacity to enjoy. Another problem is that those resources by which we will get enjoyment are outside of ourselves. We don't have control over them. That creates a lot of bewilderment for the conditioned soul because it's outside of his control. Therefore, most of the happiness experienced in the material world comes from the fact that I just got something, not from the thing itself, but that I got it. It's something finally worked out after 50 tries, something finally worked out, and the jiva feels totally ecstatic. But then the actual object doesn't bring him happiness, right? Just like classic example, boy chases girl, girl chases boy, and then this is mundane language. We used to call it macking. I don't even know what that means. Macintosh computer. And they would try to, how you say, woo the girl? Woo, 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 Mars says like that. Woo, 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 And the girl, and then, he agrees, she agrees, there's union. And then they feel happy, wow, it worked out. Right, because it was like a long shot. Suppose it's like a dork, and he goes and acts like a very beautiful girl. It's like a classical movie story. You see it sometimes in the movies. He's like a real got glasses the size of his face, and maybe snots coming out of his nose, and there's some really really like upsar type of girl. No, totally outside of his league. And then he goes and tries, and then she agrees. Wow, amazing! She has agreed to the proposal. And he's also agreed. Then they come together, and then after 2 to 3 days, they cannot stand each other. Also, what is this? So the happiness in the material, because it's outside of our control, a lot of our happiness comes just because we've obtained the object. It doesn't actually come from the object itself. That is the nature of material sense gratification. But due to the material conception of life, even though we have experience of misery from obtaining objects and they're not giving us material pleasure, due to our strong bodily concept of life, our memory is destroyed, and we continue to pursue it, right? We have the experience that it doesn't work, but due to the strong bodily concept of life, the mind says, one more time, right? Let's try out this. It's a matter of putting the right formula together, like that. In this way, puna puna charvita charvananam. He continues his existence in the material world, trying to enjoy sense gratification. So, in order to be successful, anyway, my point that I was trying to establish is in order to be successful in getting those wants from material sense gratification and resources, which are outside of his control, he has to recognize the fact that he is not in control of the elements that are by which those resources are produced. Right? They're in the control of the demigods. Prabhupada's discussion in the 3rd chapter of the Gita. No one can create the various minerals and, what do you say? Air, fire, all these things that cannot be created by men. They can only manipulate these things to create objects of sense enjoyment, but they cannot create those fundamental elements themselves, right? So they have to recognize that there's some superior authority who's providing those things. That was Vedic culture. Okay, there's some superior authority that's providing the elements by which we're manipulating to try to enjoy material sense gratification. Now, if we don't honor that authority in context, namely the devatas, if we don't honor that authority, then they restrict the resources. And if the resources are restricted, then that leads to animosity amongst humanity, right? It's like if there's only one slice of pizza and we all want it, it's going to be a huge problem, And there's no question of cutting it up for everyone, One slice of pizza, okay, we'll divide it fairly. I'll do it. I'll do the honors. I'll do the honors of dividing it fairly amongst everyone, and then I'll look, and then run off, eat the whole thing. There's only one pizza. There's no question of dividing it equally. There will be animosity. Even if you try to divide it, you do your level best. That side is bigger. I want that side. I'll take that side. In this way, it gets confused. There's confusion. So if the material resources are restricted, then living entities can't be happy. Those who want to enjoy material happiness, they can't be happy if the resources are less, right? They'll start fighting with one another. So there's a need to acknowledge a superior authority. In context of the verse, the authority of the devatas, who are providing those resources. So then how do you acknowledge their authority? By the performance of yajna. By the performance of yajna, their authority is acknowledged, and they provide profusely the material resources by which you can enjoy material sense gratification. And the benefit, that's the material side, that's hardly a benefit in a spiritual sense. But through the performance of yajna, another thing happens. That yajna means service to Vishnu. Even when you're propitiating various demigods for material sense enjoyment, and in those ceremonies, traditionally, Vishnu is served first. And then, bhoga is offered to the devatas, and then one partakes of that, not bhoga, prasadam is offered to the devatas, and then one takes of the prasadam that is coming from the yajna. So by eating that prasadam, also by the performance of the yajna itself, then one's consciousness is purified. This is Krishna's trick for the materialistic jivas, because they won't agree on their own accord to try to make spiritual advancement on account of the material concept of life. So they are somehow or other, they're convinced that by doing these various yajnas, I can get my material necessities. It's just like Krishna gives this example in the 11th canto. It's like a mother who inserts medicine inside a ladu because the kid will not agree to take the medicine. I remember growing up and they used to have like cherry Tylenol or bubblegum flavored Tylenol and all these things. But we knew it was a farce. We wouldn't. It's bubblegum flavored? No. It's cherry flavored? No, we wouldn't be convinced because we had experience that it was still nasty as anything. But the Vedic culture, Karma Kanda, here's you can get this enjoyment, you can get that enjoyment. And then in Karma Kanda, they really, embellish, extol the glories of the various programs of sense gratification you can have through yajna. So people get faith in yajna because they have faith in sense gratification. So they do the yajna, and they get their material sense gratification also, and they also get purified. So Krishna gets what he wants, the living entity gets what he wants, right? Everyone's happy, right? That's in a proper Vedic culture, everyone's happy like that. They make spiritual advancement. So through yajna, you can enjoy material sense. So this is Krishna's statement. By cooperation between man and demigods through yajna, then you can enjoy material prosperity, and at the end you'll get liberation. So that's a pretty good deal. It's a solid deal, right? I want to enjoy material sense gratification. You can have that, and you'll get liberation at the end. Great, wonderful. That sounds like my type of deal. Well, what about pure devotion? No, thank you. I'll take the other one. Material prosperity and then liberation at the end. So, okay, good, fine. Do yajna. You'll get. If you don't do yajna, then the result of not doing yajna is karma bandhanaha. Prabhupada's language here is that if you do not act to satisfy the Supreme Lord, then we engage in Maya's activities. That means the problem in the material world is trying to find out what are the proper activities which won't lead to further entanglement. This is a dilemma in the material world. Even for the souls who realize that they're entangled, it's hard to realize what activities can free them from entanglement. I don't know if the image that comes to mind often, I'll give a scriptural one and an image from my childhood. The image from my childhood is a cat playing with a yarn. I don't know if you've ever seen cartoons where the cat was playing with the yarn. And then he would start to his arm would get stuck in the yarn, and then he would try to get it out, and then his other arm would get stuck. And in like 3 or 4 minutes, the whole yarn was surrounding his whole body. He was entangled. Right? You ever see cartoons like that? Anyone seen? No one seen like that? Okay. No one. Another example I'll give from the Shastra, I'm sure you haven't seen this either. You can only picture it. This is a Shastric example. This silkworm creates a cocoon in which he's trapped inside, and then he dies. This is a Shastric example. Anyone seen that? You've seen. Okay. One person. So in a similar way, through our own activities, we create bondage for ourselves and we can't get out. That's the idea. That's the nature of the material world. So there's 2 types of bondage. One type of bondage is when you're bound by the hands and legs, you can't move. That's one type of bondage. Another type of bondage is you can't stop moving. Right? There's another type of bondage, like walking on hot sand, right? Anyone has that experience in Jagannath Puri or something like that? Walking on hot sand, you can't just go like, casual, oh, Haribo. You can't walk like that because the sand is blistering hot. You get blisters. So you're very swift across the sand. And, in fact, the devotees who are third party looking on, like, wow, he's moving quick. So you can't stop moving because the sand is so hot, right? So in a similar way, the modes of material nature Krishna describes in Gita, chapter 3, also verse 5. The modes of nature force the living entity to act. And he can't stop moving. And the material modes of nature is not like they're moving the entity towards liberation. The modes of material nature are forcing the entity to act in such a way that they're more deeply entangled in Maya. There's hardly any hope for the conditioned soul. So the only hope is Krishna's mercy. And Krishna, Yagna vai Vishnu, Krishna is Yagna. So he comes as Yagna himself. And through those activities of Yagna, the living entity is purified of his modes of nature. He gets his material enjoyment for those who are attached to such things, and he gradually makes progress spiritually. That program could take many lifetimes, according to the nature of the attachment of the living entity. But nevertheless, he makes progress. Therefore, Krishna will later on say, don't disturb their minds. Right? Don't disturb the minds of the ignorant who are doing karma kanda, because they're following a bona fide process of elevation. If you destroy their faith in that, they neither will follow karma kanda, they'll neither follow you, and they'll become sinful jivas, and they'll be totally trapped in Maya. So this is Krishna's kindness. When a living entity, he comes as Yagna. This is his kindness. To appear as Yagna, to purify us in the modes of nature, to help us to solve our Japati problems, and at the same time, get the goal of our life for those who are interested in such things. So if one is interested in material or spiritual, then they should do Yagna to Vishnu. Prabhupada is quoting that. Otherwise, he's simply wasting his time getting entangled in Maya. One has to work for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Even the Karmakandis please the Supreme Lord because they follow his system. This is mentioned by Srila Prabhupada also, NOI text 10, I think. Even the Karmakandis are pleasing the Lord. So there's different levels of pleasure of the Lord. Just agreeing to follow the Lord's system is pleasing to the Lord. Even though you're not doing it for his pleasure directly, but because you agree to follow his method by which you get sense enjoyment, that is also pleasing to the Supreme Lord. Because he knows, like I said, the medicine example, he's getting what he wants in the form of gradually purifying the jiva and moving him progressively on. But so there are different levels of pleasing. In all levels of pleasing the Lord, yagna is executed. For those who attain atmarati, so Krishna describes this thing in chapter 3 discussion. Krishna describes this thing that for those who don't do yagna, then they're entangled in the cycle of sin. For those who don't honor this cycle of yagna, then they're entangled in, their lives are filled with sinful activity only, they go down. For those who are atmarati, who attain the transcendental position, how did they attain that transcendental position? Srila Prabhupada says by thousands and thousands of yagna performances, they were able to attain the position of atmarati, which means self-satisfied, which is the goal, right? Someone wants self-satisfaction through material enjoyment. Someone realizes that it can only be had through inner development. And how does that inner life develop? Through thousands and thousands of performances of yagna. So Krishna does not need anything from the living entity. He is totally self-satisfied. But to show mercy to us, he has come to this world, this yagna, to show mercy to the living entities and give us an opportunity for service to him. And if we perform that yagna to Krishna, then we get our material sense gratification. You get your spiritual progress also, and you can also attain the goal of life through yagna. So in the age of Kali Yuga, the most important yagna, the only viable yagna in the age of Kali Yuga, is chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. There are no other yagna in the age of Kali Yuga. We may not like it on account of the jaundice of ignorance. Sat Krishna Nama Charitati Sutapta Vida, Patopatasya Rasanasya Narochi Kanu. It is very sweet. The Nam Rup Guna Lila, Sat Krishna Nama Charitadi, Charita Adi, the Nam, the characteristics, etc. of Krishna is very sweet, like sugar candy, isn't it? Isn't it? Anyone is tasting? No one is tasting. Huh? We don't believe also. When we hear the devotees glorify, the name is wonderful, like sugar candy, like, yeah, whatever. We don't believe because we're not tasting. Why we're not tasting it? We are afflicted with the jaundice of ignorance. Just like one afflicted with jaundice, they cannot appreciate sugar candy. So one afflicted with ignorance, they cannot appreciate the taste of Krishna's Nam Rup Guna Lila. They don't like Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. They don't like to hear about Krishna. They don't like to talk about Krishna. They're prepared to talk many hours, gossip, politics, CNN, all these other things, women, men. Prepare Facebook, 5-6 hours Facebooking, just scrolling down. And that way 2-3 hours go scrolling down. Every bit. But no one wants to hear about Krishna. No one wants to talk about Krishna. We like to talk about each other's faults. That is like, sweet like sugar candy. Even though it gives mental agitation, we think when we're doing it, it seems sweet like sugar candy. He did this. Oh, really? Oh, let me hear that. It is very nectarian. This is our condition. Prabhupada says this thing. This is our particular disease. That we don't want to hear about Krishna. We don't want to chant Krishna's glories. Like that. Then how will we be benefited? Krishna has appeared as yajna in order to benefit us. If we don't accept the yajna, we will not be benefited at all. So in the age of Kali, the only viable yajna is this chanting of the holy names of Krishna. We may not like it, but it is the only medicine also. You cannot give any other medicine. There's the only medicine that can be taken. Chanting of Hare Krishna. Maha Mantra, the only viable yajna for the age of Kali Yuga. But that chanting of Hare Krishna should be devoid of aparad. Otherwise, hardly get any effect. If you chant Hare Krishna and you commit aparadam, nam-aparad, then it only increases our desire for enjoyment in the material world. This is described by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. If you chant Hare Krishna and you commit the nam-aparad, which is not easy to avoid. There's so many subtleties in all nam-aparads if you discuss it deeply. Not easy to avoid. If you commit nam-aparad, then your chanting Hare Krishna will only increase your material desires. Taramadde sarvasheshas nama sankirtan nir aparade nam nile paya premadan. Only nam sankirtan performed without offense will give the goal of life, and it also will satisfy the devatas because it is worship of Krishna. You can have your chapati problem solved also. And in that way, be completely happy materially and spiritually through chanting Hare Krishna. This is the faith that we're supposed to be inculcating into ourselves and to the people of this world. Without taking shelter of the holy name, there is no hope in development in spiritual relationships. Don't think you can develop spiritual relationships without taking shelter of the Sankirtan Yajna. That is not possible. It is simply mental concoction. Oh, analyzing this person's psychophysical this, and going on and on and on ad infinitum, but not taking shelter of Sankirtan, you will not develop spiritual relationship. The only thing that will develop is a false dependency. And then, because the person that is dependent on the other person is not Krishna, he will not ultimately be able to satisfy the individual. He's falsely dependent on that devotee on the material platform, and the devotee not engaging him in Nam Sankirtan, chanting Hare Krishna, names of Krishna. It is a false thing because that devotee is not Krishna. He will not be able to finally support him in all aspects of life. Only Krishna can fulfill that service, finally. The devotee is to support in connecting the individual to Krishna. Maharaj gave the example I told yesterday, same point I told yesterday. So it is the duty of all those persons who consider themselves preachers, mentors, and all these things, to engage their dependents in Nam Sankirtan and the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Otherwise, they do disservice. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has told in the Jaiva Dharma that the duty of the Madhyama Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari means the preacher devotee. So those who take up dependence, they're kind of acting from the Madhyama position. I may not be, all false humility may be there, but once you take that service, you're acting from that position, whether you're there or not. The duty of the Madhyam Vaishnav is to see to it that its dependence, two things are mentioned. That he gets taste for Shuddha Bhakti, Anya Vilashita Shunyam, Gana Kamadina Vritam, Anu Kunyena, Krishna, Anu Shilanam. He has to get a taste for this thing, and he has to inculcate in him a taste for Harinam. That is the duty of the Madhyam Adhikari, according to Jaiva Dharma. Because that is the only yajna for the age of Kali, the only viable spiritual practice in this age of Kali. So we're trying to become preachers of various types and so on. This is a preaching movement. So we're all meant to become preachers in order to assist Lord Chaitanya in his mission of spreading the holy names of Krishna and developing pure love of Krishna. We're supposed to be Lord Chaitanya's servants more than Krishna. We're actually Mahaprabhu's servants. We're supposed to help Mahaprabhu's mission and spreading the holy name of Krishna for the benefit of the people of this world, for material and spiritual satisfaction. So anything we do that falls short of inculcating this attraction to Harinam into the people's hearts, then it is not real service done. Oh, not that it's not real service. We'll modify that. It's not complete. It's not complete. It is not complete. Jiva Goswami says the same thing about the Sandarbha. Anything you do in devotional service, it becomes complete by the kirtan of the holy name of Krishna. Otherwise, incomplete. Any service that one is doing, this is a statement of Jiva Goswami also, and also Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Bhakti Thakur echoes the same statement in one essay. Any activity one is doing should help to give support to his Sankirtan, the holy names of Krishna. Otherwise, that so-called service is an anartha, an impediment to the development of pure bhakti. So this message should be known to the souls of this world. They have to know their absolute dependence on Krishna's mercy. Krishna has come as Yagna. One name for Mahaprabhu is Sankirtan Sharira. His body is personified Sankirtan. That's mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Sankirtan Sharira. So anyone who is performing the Sankirtan of the holy names of the Lord is actually associating with Mahaprabhu directly and getting that mercy. Jagna Sankirtana Prayer Yajanti Hi Sumeda Saha. Those who have sufficient intelligence in the age of Kali, then they will worship the Jagna Purusha. The Jagna Purusha for this age just happens to be Lord Chaitanya. And one worships Lord Chaitanya through the Sankirtan of the holy names of Krishna. You may be so smart, you may be very beautiful, aristocratic family, you have so many things you can offer to the Krishna consciousness movement. But if you don't come to the point of chanting the holy name of Krishna with full conviction, on account of giving too much deference to so many other engagements, then you do a disservice to yourself. And those who are preachers and mentors and all these things, they don't help people understand this essential point of attraction to the holy name, then they are not rendering the service completely. How are they servants of Lord Chaitanya? Mahaprabhu's particular mission for the conditioned souls, Mahaprabhu had his own reasons for coming to the material world. He had his own reasons for coming to the material world. His own reasons are no need to discuss so deeply now. He wanted to understand the love of his devotees. That was one reason he came. But his reason for coming in the material world to benefit the conditioned souls, three things. One thing is Advaita Charya called him. Advaita Charya's appearance is coming up, right? Next week. So Advaita Charya called, Haribo, come down. No one else can help these people except for you. That was one reason he came. Advaita Charya loudly screaming for the Lord to appear. But there are two other reasons the Lord came. And one of them is often emphasized, and another one is hardly emphasized. The one reason he came is to establish the chanting of the holy name of Krishna, the Yuga Dharma, to inaugurate the Yuga Dharma of this age, Harinam Sankirtan. And the other reason he came, external reason, the reason for benefiting the conditioned souls, was to distribute them the love of God as he appreciates in his own domain of Vrindavan. It's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita that his distribution of the holy name, he how do you say it? Wove, like you tie a thing, wove it, it's called wove. A wreath of Nam and Prema, and made a garland and then distributed to the conditioned souls. As this description is given, 4th chapter of Adi Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we're supposed to be helping Lord Chaitanya in this particular mission. Then we'll be happy materially, spiritually, and we'll go back home, back to Godhead also. Krishna does not need anything from us, but he is very merciful to us, so he has appeared as Yagna. So if we take shelter of Yagna, then we achieve everything. And one who does not take shelter of Yagna, particularly the Sankirtan Yagna of this age, then it's not be understood that we've been cursed by Yamaraj. That is the only conclusion. These are the statements of the Shastras. Don't think I'm being fanatic. Or if I'm being fanatic, I'm following the footsteps of Kaviraj Goswami. So you can't find fault with me. It is understood we are cursed by Yamaraj only. And go down. Like that. So in this way, of course there are many things. I'm just trying to instill some faith in myself and others about chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions? Okay, I saw your hand first, and then Charya Nishta, and then
Thank you, Prabhu. I was wondering, could you explain this program of the Karma Kanda? They can enjoy sense gratification to the full and then get liberation. Now, how is that liberation enacted? receiving liberation after living according to the karma?
Well, I mentioned it as a soundbite. Bahu nam jamananante gyanavama prapadyate. It's not like they get liberation at the end of that life. Because they have so many desires to enjoy, so they have to take on so many bodies to get that enjoyment. But if they perform a yajna, there's gradual purification over many lifetimes. So Krishna is describing that whole progress in the Gita, right? Through Sakama and then Sarkama Karma Yoga, then Nishkama Karma Yoga, and so on. So that they benefit after many, many lifetimes of following the program as established by the Supreme Lord.
Thank you. The other question I had, you said Mahaprabhu's appearance in the material world was also to taste the mellows of Vrindavan. Is that correct? You said one of the internal...
His own devotee.
But I'm thinking of... Isn't he relishing that in the spiritual world? Why does the descent to material world have to necessitate?
He's relishing it from the position of the Vishaya, the object of enjoyment. But he's not relishing it from the position of the Ashraya Vigraha. So looking upon this language, Vishaya Ashraya, nectar of devotion. Vishaya means the object of love. That's Krishna. And the Ashraya Vigraha means the shelter of love, or the abode of love. So the nature of devotion to Krishna, bhakti, we're hearing about bhakti, the nature of bhakti is that it takes one living entity as its shelter and another living entity as its object. Right? That's the nature of bhakti. So then, in other words, bhakti is a spiritual energy. It's coming from Krishna's own internal potency, Swarup Shakti. It's a spirit. Therefore, we say love of Godhead. It's a spiritual potency. So the nature of that potency, bhakti, is that it takes shelter of one living entity, that's the devotee. So he's called Ashraya Vigraha. And it takes another living entity as its object. That's Krishna, the Vishaya Vigraha. Right? So then, Krishna is the Vishaya Vigraha. And the topmost embodiment of the Ashraya Vigraha is Srimati Radharani. That's the discussion there. So he was saying that she was getting more enjoyment. So I'm supposed to be the king of mellows, Rasaraj, but I think she's getting more than me. So I didn't understand that. So he took on her position in order to understand. Because in order to understand that, he had to take on her position. That is a discussion. We're not going into details. It's attractive. But first of all, chant Hare Krishna purely and make advancement. But we can read these things that are mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 4, if you want to, increase your interest in the subject matter and understanding. So I saw Shraya's hand, I saw his hand, I see your hand.
Thank you for your nice class, first of all. One thing that you mentioned, I had two questions, if there's time for that. One is that obviously offensive chanting has a negative effect because we're chanting with the wrong conception. So how does that work in the service of engaging other persons in the Harinam Sankirtan who have no real spiritual conception? They will chant, and then some attraction and purification will come from that. But how does it play out?
There should be at least one pure devotee amongst the chanters. We also, in the verse, Parasparam that we're hearing, so if you go back to read the purport, it is mentioned there, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Sankirtan becomes especially powerful if there's one pure devotee amongst let's say, the audience. So, in other words, we should, following in the footsteps of our predecessor Acharyas, become pure devotees of Krishna, and then go out and do the Sankirtan. And if anyone comes and joins us as pure devotees of Krishna, they will get superlatively benefited on account of the devotee's own pure devotion. That is the power of the devotee. That is his own power. So we should become pure devotees of the Lord. We shouldn't think it is impossible. Otherwise, there's no purpose to chanting Hare Krishna if it's not possible. It is certainly possible. It just depends on if you want to serve Mahaprabhu in that way. Mahaprabhu's movement is actually called Prema Sankirtan movement. If you read chapter 11 of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, called the Beta Kirtan, Pastimes of the Lord, it's one of my favorite chapters. So at one point, Prataparudra goes to the top of the roof along with Gopinathacharya, and all the Vaishnavas from Bengal and all over the place are coming in for the Rath Yatra ceremony. So they're performing Sankirtan as they're arriving into Jagannath Puri. So when Pratap sees that, wow, what is this Sankirtan? It wasn't like he was foreign to Sankirtan at Jagannath Puri. He's always hearing Kirtan of the Lord going on. But when he saw Mahaprabhu's devotees coming in doing saying, what is this? I've never seen such a creation like this before. And to that, Gopinath says, Chaitanya Shishti. This is Lord Chaitanya's creation. Prema Sankirtana, something, I don't remember the Bengali. This Prema Sankirtana is Lord Chaitanya's creation. So the Mahaprabhu's movement is supposed to be Prema Sankirtan movement. So that means that the members of the movement should be having spiritual love, right? Then they go out and do Sankirtan, and everyone's benefited. At least one pure devotee should be there. Just like someone may say, like in Prabhupada's movement, time, when he was on the planet, we can hardly think that all the devotees during the movement had prema. I mean, at least we can't have faith in that. At least many of us probably don't have faith in that. But because of the pure devotion of one personality, Srila Prabhupada, reflected into the hearts of all those individuals, supremely potent, and devotees were going to, this place by themselves. Like you hear one devotee following Srila Prabhupada's example, going to Germany, setting up shop by himself, chanting kirtan, just opening up a center like after 2 or 3 weeks, and this was going on all over the place. It's quite, it's inconceivable, obviously. That is the power of such a premi devotee. Anyway, so we should become pure devotees ourselves, and that way we can benefit everyone. He wants to...
Rest second. that we've also discussed that verse in the past, where Srila Prabhupada comments in, I think, Canto 1, Chapter 5, verse 6, the chanting, dancing, and refreshments purport. What I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. It should be done under the guidance of a pure devotee of the Lord. It's the same thing. Right? Another thing I was thinking as you were mentioning, I'm just taking a different angle on it to widen the view of it in my mind. If someone doesn't engage someone in Sankirtan, what's the point? What kind of religion is that, basically, if they're calling themselves a spiritual guide or something? But like on a surface level, some of us may look at like what Srila Prabhupada did even and say, devotees had so many services and like, not as much time for chanting and like blah, blah, blah. So like there's personalities like that have such a view of things, the ultimate benefit that they're seeing, that they're not engaging everybody directly as much as you might think that they should or something. So I was just thinking more along those lines, not like it takes away from the point at all, even a little bit, but that aspect seems to be there. I've read something recently that, like Jamuna Devi, she's like the advocate for chanting amongst the Matajis, I guess, was late Jamuna Devi. How much appreciation she had for chanting, even though she's saying humbly, I can't chant very nicely, But then there's like a pastime that we were reading where she's riding in the car with Srila Prabhupada. He's asking her, like, are you chanting all your rounds, And she was appreciating how he was, like, reminding her about that. And she would say, no, Prabhupada, I don't have time. And he said, well, can you at least chant 8 rounds? And she said, okay, Prabhupada, I can do that. So it seems like, why didn't he say, like, well, give up your services. You should go make sure you can chant your rounds or something, because there's some other purification was required. So it doesn't take away from the point. I'm just widening our understanding. Like there may be circumstances where such a high-level personality as an acharya whose vision of what's required for everyone's benefit is different. But in general, like on a lower level, if we don't have an appreciation for the need for connecting with the holy name, we're cheating ourselves. So I thought, if you want to add anything, you're welcome to. I just was thinking about that when I heard it. I was contemplating deeper.
Yeah, for the individual, Sankirtan can refer to Nam Japa also. In the CC, the word Nam Sankirtan is used to refer to Nam Japa also, and several places. So that's one point. And the other thing is that Prabhupada teaches of all the duties of the disciple, the most important duty to fulfill is chanting the bare minimum of 16 rounds every day. This is the most important service that he has to his guru and his guru's institution. The most important service, finishing the bare minimum of non-japa vraja. That's the most. And just as we understand that non-japa is important for the individual because it augments individual purity, which means he can make a greater contribution in the community. So in the same way, just as Nam Japa augments the purity of the individual, so Nam Sankirtan, meaning the congregational chanting, helps to augment the purity of the community. Bhattacharya Prabhu said it very nicely when he came here to give, and Gita Nagari during the Japa retreat. He said very nicely, I never heard it put in this way, but he said, Nam Japa purifies the individual, whereas Nam Sankirtan purifies the relationships. And that was like, it's like we've heard it in other ways before, but hearing it in that way was enlightening. So we see the importance of Nam Japa. Like you see devotees sometimes even at 10 o'clock, got to finish my last 2 rounds. They understand the importance of fulfilling that order of the spiritual master. So in the same way, on a community level, we should see the importance of Nam Sankirtan for augmenting community purity. And that will put an end to, it can put an end, according to the degree you do it, all the other types of stuff that tends to go on when we're not doing Sankirtan, looking at each other's faults, like that, in that context, mentioning, but your point is certainly relevant. Therefore, chanting under guidance is needed for clarifying all these points.
But thank you. It's not like Prabhupada didn't emphasize a lot of Sankirtan. It's just thank you for turning it some further.
Okay, I saw your hand, and then I see her. Yeah, Himanshu, Richard, and then okay, Himanshu.
Hare Krishna. I was thinking about the thing we read over the weekend, the sadhana essay from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how he describes how the purpose of our sadhana is to elicit the mercy of Krishna. So the same point is being made over here, that although Krishna is fully self-satisfied, if he can get his blessings, his mercy, then that is for our benefit. And I'm just having a hard time understanding how it is that, so when we're doing our sadhana, and sadhana could extend to so many different divisions, right? Even, not just the hearing and chanting, but also the practical activities, the running errands. It can all be considered part of sadhana in one sense. How is it that, do we have to be aware that, okay, I'm doing this to get Krishna's mercy, or does it just come automatically, or does it come based on the quality of our sadhana? I'm trying to understand how that works.
How, I'm missing the punchline. How the various aspects of sadhana,
yeah.
How those aspects what?
How those aspects go about eliciting Krishna's mercy.
Easily. Just like showing determination to serve Krishna, that's all. Doing this and that and that and that and that. Ultimately, it's known as for Krishna. Even though, in the immature stage, it's not like we're going to be always conscious. Just like if you're typing a paper at your workplace, you're typing in the workplace. And it's not like you're like, this is for Krishna, this is for Krishna, this is for Krishna, this is for Krishna, this is for... How you be able to concentrate? You have to concentrate on writing the paper. But it is known that this is, why am I here in the first place? Or it's not like, I'll say it in another way. You're working in the workplace because you want the money. So it's not like while you're typing, I want the money, I want the money, I want the money, I want the money. Because the mind can't do like that. It has to focus. Okay, I'm writing something. It's going to be... But it's known behind that writing and that work is you want the money. Although that's not in the forefront of your consciousness while you're doing the activity. So similarly, especially in the immature stage, it's not like Krishna's going to be always in the forefront of our consciousness while we're doing our various activities. Because the nature of activity is that you get involved, you get engaged, the mind gets stolen, and so on. But why are you here in the first? Why are you going to the store? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? In the background, it's because it's for Krishna, it's for service to the guru, to the devotee. That's in the background. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there. And then what happens is when you deal with difficulties in those activities, then that comes to the foreground. you start asking yourself, this is miserable, why am I here? And then what comes to the foreground is, I'm service to devotees, service to Guru, service to Krishna. So it's there. That means it's there. It may not be in the foreground, but it's there. And then when there's some difficulty, it immediately comes to the foreground. This example is given in Srimad Bhagavatam 286. A man goes on a journey for the pleasure of his family. And then there's some difficulty, and immediately he remembers the family, and the misery is mitigated. And then when he returns home, he forgets all such misery along the way. And that's due to the affectionate tie with his family. So it may not always be in the forefront of our consciousness. We don't need to feel like, oh man, it's not it is there. And then how much it is there will be seen when you meet with difficulty. Then if you meet with difficulty and you say, I give up such service, that means Krishna probably wasn't there anywhere in the picture, nowhere in the mind. So then difficulty comes, you give up the service also. But if Krishna is there, then when there's difficulty, immediately you recall, this is for Krishna. This is for Krishna's devotees. Immediately you recall it. And then you continue with the service like that. Srila Prabhupada, we hear that when Prabhupada was, the first year nothing was happening, he would often go to the bank of the river to find out the timings for going back to India. And he would see, and then he was like, no, he would come. And then the next day he would come. Every day he was coming. I don't know for how long, but every day he would come and see. It was just so miserable. And then one man would be seeing Srila Prabhupada coming like this, he's not getting any ticket. He would find out the timings and everything. And we're, no. And then one devotee tells this story. I would like to see a written thing of it. But he tells it very nicely. Then when Prabhupada finally decided that I'm going to die here in America, serving my spiritual master's mission, then very shortly after that, things started just unfolding. He had that, now I'm deciding I'm going to die here in the service of my spiritual master. So it means that Prabhupada was thinking sometimes like, this is miserable, I will go. But because service to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was there in his mind, immediately when there was trouble, it was coming to the fore, no, I cannot abandon my spiritual master's mission. So that depends on individuals, how much they are attached to the mission of Mahaprabhu, the mission of Srila Prabhupada, the mission as carried out by Srila Prabhupada's servants. Then you'll see for yourself. Like that. That makes sense to me. Okay, you can say, generally. I know it's a little late now. Yeah. No, just give them the microphone. Yeah. No, Krishni.
Thank you so much for the wonderful class. My question was related to apara. I think that's what it's called, like an offense, but a really great one, I think. It's a connotation. If one, like myself, probably very offenseful, and, since the beginning, because, no consciousness of spirituality, and then coming forward, you still have your anarthas and whatnot. If you're making these offenses, isn't it that the most, precious time you should be chanting right now, to clear that, because this is the moment when you really need it. That's how I've looked at chanting, this is the moment I really need to chant right now because things are going to the wayside, and this is the individual purity I need. But from the class I was just getting confused, and just from other readings too, that when you're chanting, you're not getting, the full benefit. Can you just maybe explain that?
When you're chanting, committing offenses, you don't get the full benefit of chanting. Is that what you're saying?
My real question is, you're making these offenses. What can one do? What can one do?
Well, if you see the offenses basically deal with one's lifestyle and one's mentality, right? Like, don't offend devotees, right? And there are 6 ways you can defend devotees. You can kill them. That's one. That's pretty bad. You can hate them or be envious of them. We were just hearing this yesterday. You can get angry with them. You cannot be happy when you see them, or be happy when you don't see them. That one wasn't mentioned. They're playing like that. This is a type of envy, aparad towards the devotee. And some of them are actually with physical, and some of them are mental offenses. Other ones, like thinking the guru is an ordinary person, so being neglectful or disobeying his instruction on account of thinking he's ordinary. Or committing sinful activities and thinking, I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I'll be purified. So these are like lifestyle things, right? Then you have mental things like inattention when chanting. That's a mental problem, right? You're either distracted or you're like completely out of commission, or you're just apathetic, like don't care this way. That's a mental problem. Or thinking when we hear the glories of the holy name, if you chant one name of Krishna, that can wipe away more of offenses than more sins than one is able to commit in one lifetime. What? I did a lot of sinful activity. Krishna, cleared. Right? So then you think, no, that sounds a little far out. Right? Krishna and everything's clear like that. Like someone comes and they've done so many sinful activities. I saw the Yamaduta. Sometimes people say that. They've had this experience where they've seen Yamadutas and so on. I'm scared, what should I do? Just say one name of Krishna. You don't know anything. Let me go to someone else. So in other words, you're thinking that it's an exaggeration, a hyperbole. That's a mental problem. So you'll see that the offenses are lifestyle and mentality issues. So that means our lifestyle and our mentality has to change in order to give up. Now, Namaparada is not like, okay, now I'm sitting down chanting Hare Krishna, I won't commit offenses. It's like, okay, what are you doing with your life, though? And what's your general mentality as you're operating in life? That has to change in order to give up offenses. So therefore, we have so many instructions by Rupa Goswami and Nectar of Instruction, you know that book, Nectar of Instruction, that deal with our lifestyle and our mentality. And then 7th verse, chant Hare Krishna. Right? Before chanting Hare Krishna, there's all this lifestyle stuff. All this and mental states, enthusiasm, confidence, patience, these are mental states, right? So then he mentions all these things, and then 7th verse he says, chant Hare Krishna. Right? So that means if we want to avoid aparadam in our chanting of the holy name of Krishna, we have to change our lifestyle and we have to change our mentality. Absolute must. So that's not easy, so we also need the help of superior Vaishnavas to do that. Right? To get the lifestyle together, that takes it takes like a Mother Himangi, right? Telling you should do like this, right? With your program, and then you can get everything in, and you can still go to school and do all those things, right? So you got some support, and then for your lifestyle, and then get the lifestyle together. Now, after we get the lifestyle together, the mentality, that's another thing, I'm waking up, rising every morning for Mangalarti. I also come for Japa, but my mentality is like, oh, so many faults. Changing the mentality. So that's another hard work that has to go into it. And then 7th verse, chant Hare Krishna. Now, these verses are not like first fixed in this verse, then you can move to the 2nd verse. If that were the case, we'd all be stuck on verse 1, no question of sense control. But they're all followed together, but we see the necessity of improving in all those areas in order to clear out the aparadam in our chanting. So chanting has 3 stages, the offensive stage, the clearing stage, probably called the clearing stage, and then the pure stage. So as practicing sadhakas, hopefully we're at the clearing stage. Clearing means we're clearing out these tendencies for offenses by transforming our lifestyle and our mentality. So then that's how we make our chanting more effective. Like that. Does that answer that question? Oh. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.